Thank God it's Friday, ladies and gentlemen. Thank God it's Friday. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 1039 WYAB. And we are broadcasting out of our 50,000 watt blowtorch of a signal out of Flora, Mississippi. And we are streaming on Rumble for now. We are streaming on X for now. We are streaming on YouTube for now. And we are streaming at the mothership that is WYAB.com, but we don't know when the censors are going to come in and kick me off like they always do. Because we speak the truth here at the Andrew Gosser Show. We're not afraid. Not afraid of the monetization. I'm not a slave to the money. Are you? Look, if you want to be a part of the program today, the number is simple, 601-879-0002. The text line is open. I'll be truthful. I didn't check the text line this morning. I got sidetracked on something different, and I haven't checked it. So if you texted it, I'm sorry, but the number is 601-879-5060. I do need to get better at that, and I promise I will. Yep. The mission here at the Andrew Gosser Show is standard. We are here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? You all are the saints. A perverse person stirs up conflict, and gossip separates close friends. Isn't that the truth? Got another one for you. The words of a gossip are like choice morsels. They go down the innocent parts, or the most innermost parts. Yep. I got another one too, but I'm going to save it. And the reason I started with that is because we have to start with CBS News, and I am now we've got a name for MS Now / BS Always. We got to have one for CBS, and it's the only thing I can come up with is Communist Broadcasting Spin. These guys are they are absolutely destroying the American fabric, both internationally. Well, not both. It would be internationally, nationally, and locally, and I've got examples of all. Let's go to international. Arab states running dangerously low on interceptors to take down Iranian-fired missiles, officials say. Who are these officials? I've gone through this entire article, and I can't find any of the officials' names. And it is someone who's been around in politics for a while. If a politician and if an official is not going to give their name, then you know it's BS. It's gossip. It's there to stir up strife, anger, hatred. Put your name on it if you're going to do that. Say what you want about Thomas Massey or Rand Paul, but they at least put their names on the line. It is a Founding Fathers Friday. They actually signed their name to the document really big so the king doesn't have to squint his eyes like John Hancock. And this audience is so smart. We've got a lot of veterans in there. I'm a veteran. We can kind of talk and color inside the lines without saying some of the things that we need to say. But this article goes on, and it says, Arab states in the Persian Gulf are running dangerously low on interceptors to take down Iranian-fired missiles. 2 regional officials told CBS News. Now, they didn't say on the condition of anonymity, so why are they hiding their names? Governments in the region have asked for the U.S. to expedite new supplies that they've been told that officials in Washington are creating a task force to do so. Well, there you go. The government's going to create another task force, hold another hearing, and send another letter to get something done. If that's what the Arab states are waiting for, dudes, you're screwed, man. But not so fast, my friends. Not so fast, my friends. Because what the media here is not telling you is that missile attacks are down 81%. Drone attacks are down 89%. Yes, we're burning through missiles and we're burning through interceptors, but what it's not telling you is that Iran is losing the capability very, very quickly, like never before in history. They're losing their ability to launch missiles and drones very, very quickly. So that's the first part about it. Second of all, it doesn't talk about the numerous air-to-air assets that we have in the region that are on standby, that are constantly on patrol, that have the same ability to take down these drone missiles and or these drone suicide drones. They're not missiles, they're drones, so I get confused a little bit. We've got specifically laser pointed rockets from air to air, and this is all open source, so I'm not even doing anything. Max Afterburn on YouTube, if you haven't followed him. Sandbox News on YouTube, if you haven't followed them. These are like TTP Tuesday stuff, but here you go. This is all open source. We've got more stuff to shoot down these suicide drones and these missiles than are being led to believe. But Communist Broadcasting Spin doesn't want you to believe that. They wanna instill fear and anxiety. And that's why the show exists. We don't wanna have fear. We don't wanna have anxiety. We we've got so much over there. It is absolutely disgusting. Text coming in already. Sure, Andy, why don't you just talk about this and not talk about the stock market? Well, it was down 1,000, it's now down to 400, and it's rebounding. Since you brought it up, I did do some show prep on it. Oh, thank you for asking, smart aleck. Let's go through rough headline on jobs report. This is from Bill McClune, Citizen Free Press. Again, coming from that list. If you just had that list on X, you get the same stuff I do. I'm not some prophet or soothsayer, not Nostradamus. I just use my brain. 92,000 jobs lost in February. Big miss from plus 59 expected. December and January revised to 69,000 lower than previously reported. But the data also shows that foreign-born workers have lost 519,000 jobs over the past year, while native-born workers have gained 128,000 jobs. Additionally, the federal government employment decreased by 13,000 in February and is down 330,000 or 11% since Trump took over in 2024. Shut up. This is more just soothsaying and doom scrolling. I need to get some black pills and hand them out to you, dude. You need help. Get back to the story here. I just have very little time for the doom scrollers. As I've prayed about this, and I'm like, man, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word incites anger. Well, I'm trying to be gentle, but sometimes you got a stubborn mule and you just need to whack him in the butt. Hundreds of drones launched by Iran and are added to the complication. Yeah, it is, and you know who is really fearing this more than the Arabian States or even Iran? You know who's really fearing this? China, because they're seeing how effective we are. And what Communist Broadcasting Spin fails to recognize is this is all the stuff that we're burning through right now, which has been another common theme in this program, is our 4th and even maybe some of our 5th generation air defense type of stuff. We're not talking about the gee whiz stuff that's sitting in a hangar somewhere, or it might even be deployed in theater that we just don't talk about, but we're using. Who here remembers the drone attack that the Mexican cartel did on the border just last month, where they were gonna shut down the airspace for 10 days, and then that video came out of that of the Department of Defense that showed this unique weapon just taking out all sorts of little drones. There have been unsubstantiated and uncorroborated reports of the new Iron Dome, which is using electricity. Brother Clay Edwards and I talked about it on the show Monday. $2.50 a shot. Why are Americans falling for this? Why are Europeans falling for this? Because in colleges, they used to teach us how to deductively think and reason. Now they just tell us what to think, and we're idiots for it. You and I aren't idiots, but the mass amount of sheep, they need to be brought up to speed. So this international article talking about the running out of drones. I mean, and here's the thing too. Those of us who've been around long enough in the business understand the different types of explosions, the different types of rapid unscheduled disassemblies. We understand, and there are things out there where I look at it and I just kind of smile and shake my head in the sweet bee, who is at this very moment at the Guinness factory in Ireland, by the way. Wish I was there. But she'll sit there and say, "What are you smiling at?" And I just don't say a word about it. But, we have so many different assets and tools available in the theater of Iran to stop the drones and the missiles. When you hear something like this, you just need to call BS. Throw the flag. It's a personal foul. 15 yards. Replay first down or automatic first down. If it was first down, then it would be replay first down. But if it was third down, then you know it's automatic first down. It's a personal foul, flagrant foul, lying to the American people. Who says I don't like American football anymore? But that came across my feed, and then nationally, this is coming from Communist Broadcast Spin. The United States plans to exhume and identify remains of 88 Pearl Harbor sailors who were buried as unknowns. Now, as a sailor, an enlisted one, almost 10 years, avionics technician, second class air warfare designator. I don't want anybody going into or near the USS Arizona. That they're buried there. That is their grave. They gave their lives defending our country on Pearl Harbor, December 7th. And this goes through at least 12 paragraphs, 13 paragraphs, 14 paragraphs. And then what does it say? So now we're sitting there going, wow, we're going to go into the USS Arizona and exhume bodies for DNA. Brother, we know who was on that ship. We've got it all figured out. Why are they doing this? Then listen to this. Here's the quote. This whole story could have been completely ramified, but Communist Broadcasting Spin just wanted to anger the conservative out there. Remains that are under or remains in that underwater grave will stay where they are. Only those that were buried in a cemetery will be exhumed. Do you think that should have been in the opening paragraph, if not the opening sentence? I get in trouble for saying that the news media is an enemy of the state. I get mocked and ridiculed for calling it what it is, Operation Mockingbird. All I can do is point to you very specific and exact examples of where your mind is being attacked. I'm not saying that you're falling for it, but your mind is being attacked. And this is just this is an American news company. Well, sort of. It's in America and it is quote unquote news, but it's propaganda. It's there to gossip. It's there to incite spin. It's there to cause problems. And that's why the mission of the show is to equip the saints. You are the saints. Even if you don't agree with me, guess what? You are the proud beneficiary of being associated and affiliated with saints. If you're not a saint yet, let's get you there. Love to have you in the kingdom. When we get back from the break, I'm going to talk about a local news story from Communist Broadcasting Spin here locally that will just prove my point that it's international, it's national, and it's local. And it's all right here on the Andrew Gosser Show on 1039 WYAB. We'll be right back. Yeah, yeah. I'll get to the Christy Nome stuff. It's not the first time a woman has used her assets to get into a job and then botch it all up. Yeah, Kamala Harris. Yeah, we're back here on the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB, moving and grooving. Phone lines are open 601-879-0002, 601-879-5060 if you want to text. Look, I will get to Christy Nome before we get to Founding Fathers Friday because it does deserve a little bit of discussion on that because it's just the truth of the matter is that 50% of everybody listening to this voice right now has been in some type of inappropriate relationship. It just is what it is. But getting back to communist broadcasting spin, we have the international, which we talked about, which was the shortage of missiles, which is completely been debunked. And like I actually there's once you're retired, you still have friends who are on active duty, and mine now are approaching the ranks that I can't even really get in touch with them anymore because they're so far up there. Not bragging, it's just the blessing of growing old. But I've got it on really good authority that we're going to be all right without violating any classified or any privileged information. We're just fine. But again, Communist Broadcasting Spin came out with this, and I am going to take a career risk, ladies and gentlemen. You know, Rush Limbaugh back in the day said on Open Line Fridays he was taking a career risk by opening up the phone lines to just take whoever. Well, I am going to play a video from YouTube from WJTV 12 CBS News. And guess what? It's right here in Jackson, people, right here in Jackson. So we need to do it because we need to debunk this spin.
Back here at home, some Mississippians are publicly objecting to the war in Iran. The group, Mississippi for a Just World, expressed its disapproval for the ongoing conflict. The protests took place at the corner of Woodrow Wilson and State Street and caught.
How many of you heard about this? How many people there? Now we need to listen to this. This is 1 minute and 23 seconds long. And you know what? I'm going to start it over and I'm just going to play it from start to finish because I want you to really focus in and I want you to listen for specific data points and things that you feel are relevant and important. And then we'll come back and we'll discuss it.
Here at home, some Mississippians are publicly objecting to the war in Iran. The group, Mississippi for a Just World, expressed its disapproval for the ongoing conflict. The protests took place at the corner of Woodrow Wilson and State Street and caught the attention of drivers, with many honking and screaming in support of their efforts. As vehicles passed by, protesters chanted, informing travelers what's potentially at stake if the United States remains involved. An Iranian American we spoke with says the price of war is too much.
A part of it is numbness, too. And that's a part of the strategy. Authoritarian governments, the one that we're living in right now, the ones that we're bombing abroad, the strategy is to exhaust people so that it's not just... what's happening right now is so traumatic. It would take a person's entire lifetime to recover from the trauma of watching your people and your heritage be destroyed by needless violence. And instead of having a lifetime to recover from that, we get 2 days and then there's another tragedy.
Protesters are calling this an unnecessary war and say the destruction will lead to the erasure of a culture and historical heritage.
And that is 1 minute and 23 seconds of propaganda, Operation Mockingbird, grade A Barbra Streisand being shoved right down your throat here locally. Now, before I get into this, wasn't there just, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't there just another communist broadcasting spin station in Austin that just suffered a terrorist attack from a guy wearing a hoodie saying "Property of Allah" and a T-shirt underneath that gave his support to the Islamic Republic of Iran? Oh yeah, that's right. And what did the station censors tell that guy to do? Remember, they told him to shut up. Yeah, we got that one too. The streets don't forget. and while you listen to this, remember now you didn't get to see all the protesters in Jackson, Mississippi, but here there are enormous crowds of Iranians who are supporting the actions that the United States is taking. We just want to make sure that we got to call a spade a spade. We got to keep it 100, ladies and gentlemen. Apples to apples, oranges to oranges, soup to nuts.
What does that mean? It means they don't want us to focus on this.
They don't want us to focus on this. All right. Well, I am. And then he goes into his report. That guy is a friggin' hero. Journalists on the ground. And people wonder why we don't trust the news. And people are like, Andy, you're destroying the legitimacy of communist broadcasting spin. Yes, I think if we should have a protest, we should have it right in front of their news organization, right in front of their building, and let them know we don't appreciate the lies and propaganda. So I want to go back to the local news report because they left out very important information that you will not get if you just tune in to the news at 6 or 7 or whenever the heck this thing ran, and you do not have the time to sit there and do all the background research. We're getting a weather alert, so there we go. But let's go back and listen to this real quick.
Back here at home, some Mississippians are publicly objecting to the war in Iran. The group, Mississippi for a Just World, expressed its disapproval for the ongoing conflict. The protests took place at the corner of
Mississippians for a Just World. Who is Mississippians for a Just World? Well, I did the background check on them. I even went to their X page. So on X, you can find them and look. This is for my TTP people who really want to get smart. It's just MS, the number 4, Just World. They have 161 or they're following 161 people, and they have 87 followers. Yep, that's this mega organization doing this. Mississippi for a Just World, often abbreviated as MSM, are let's take this phone call real quick. Let's be brave before I go over here. Go ahead, you're on the air.
So you were saying that they left out some very critical information, and then all of a sudden the weather alert came on, so we didn't hear the next 30 seconds. So whatever information you're talking about, we missed. None of us got to hear.
Well, you know what? This is what we'll do. It is roughly 33 after. We're going to take an early commercial break, Brother Rick. And when we get back from the other side, I will start that critical information all over again. I really appreciate the phone call, man. Yeah, and thank you. You're one of the real ones out there, brother. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, let's just take Brother Rick's advice. We'll take a quick commercial break, and we will start breaking down what this Mississippi for Just World really is. And let's get the information out there. We will be right back. Oh, yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show on 1039 WYAB. Double weather interruption. I just checked my personal weather app. I don't use the weather.com one. I use something different. It's clearing a million. Are we going to have bad storms this weekend? Potentially. Don't be afraid. Just be contingent or be cognizant of what's going on with the weather. Pay attention to what's going on. If you don't have a weather radio, you should. We talked about that when the floods last year hit Texas. Definitely want to have a weather radio. Always have that thing plugged in. You just never know. But before we were so rudely interrupted by the weather, we were talking about CBS, and Brother Rick had a great text. He calls it Communist Brainwashing Services. So that's what we're going to call CBS from now on, Communist Brainwashing Services, because that's what they're doing. They're providing a service to the communists, to the socialists, to the one world government morons out who try and take over the dang joint. But it starts out here, and I want to go through this video line by line and then provide some important context to it. Now, I'm hopeful that the weather didn't block out the Austin reporter who basically was told on air to stop covering the pro-Iranian protest because it wasn't fitting the narrative. I replayed that. If you need to hear that again, go to my X account, or maybe I'll play it in a different segment. But it's important to understand that you've got to break this down, and it's like, it's not like you can just sit there and let them out of the corner after you've proven they're wrong. This is something where you've got to like stomp on the roach 3 or 4 times to make sure it happens. And let's take this phone call right here. Go ahead, you're on the air.
Hey, good morning. I don't know if you've noticed or not, but every time you and Kim Wade start talking about something good, this darn emergency broadcast comes up. Have you noticed that?
Brother, not only have I noticed this, whenever I start talking about this in Israel, my computer freaks out. Yesterday, if you noticed, there was like a 34-second dead air gap. That was because the entire computer completely shut down. I had to reboot the radio station. And I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but it's happening all the time, man.
I mean, I'm not either. I just know what I know. Kim Wade gets talking good things about our President Trump, and they come up with this emergency broadcast. I'm telling you, Big Brother is watching for sure, and it's kind of like, you know, I just want to make sure I just wasn't completely crazy and that you noticed it too.
No, I noticed it, but let me just since we're having this conversation, can I tell you one thing real quick?
Of course.
I love my life, man. I love
mine too.
People think that I'm sitting here being crazy, but the more I do this research on the mass formation psychosis and Operation Mockingbird, and I'm proving it here locally. It's happening here, right here in Mississippi. And we're so asleep at the wheel, we're not paying attention to it. And I really appreciate you calling in and letting me know about that, because it just further gives me more faith and proof in myself that I'm going down the right track here. It's just we're going to have some uphill challenges, you know?
But let me ask you something. I was in radio a long time ago. When that broadcast interrupts, do you know that? Did you hear that in your headset or no?
I do.
Okay, because it's becoming more and more annoying, and I've called Tim before and said, man, quit talking about Trump because they keep cutting you out. He said, yeah, I know they do. So I just want to make sure I wasn't completely crazy, though. Man, I enjoy your show. Keep up the good work, my friend. You have a great weekend.
You too. Have a blessed weekend, my friend. Thanks for the phone call. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Independent proof right there. I have never talked to that gentleman before, obviously listening, and I appreciate each and every one of you who tune in and listen. But we are being spoofed. We are being messed with. And that's what happens with the truth. It gets messed with. And it's not just at a international level. You know, this isn't at Davos or somewhere in Europe. It's here in the United States, whether it be Washington, D.C., Austin, Texas, or it could be right here in Mississippi, like right here in Jackson, Mississippi. So I played the report once. I'm going to just kind of jump in and out of this because there's a lot to say here. The bottom third says anti-war protesters gather in Jackson. You got a picture of it. Man almighty. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Hey, the National Weather Service or the emergency broadcast thing not only did one alert, and no later than you'd shut your mouth about maybe 5 minutes later, they did another one. So what you can do is you can tune over to another radio station, and it doesn't happen there at the same time. I figured all that stuff would be
Wow.
happening at the same time.
Wow. That is dare I say spooky. If there are, because I'm not tuning into any other radio station. I've got WYAB locked in, ripped off the knob, and that's where I live when I'm listening to radio. But the fact that you were able to validate that, I mean, what's that? I mean, again, I don't want to go down a deep hole, but why is it only happening at YAB? Why isn't it happening to some of these other stations?
Yeah, the National Emergency Broadcast Radio System is supposed to be hooked up to all of the radio stations and broadcast at the same time. It only seems to happen on WYAB and maybe another station, but there's a couple of stations out there that are real close on the dial or not too far away on the dial from the 103.9 location on the thing, and you can dial over to them real quick. They're still yapping.
We need to put together Andrew Gosser show group that goes ahead and kind of investigates and stuff like that, because this is now this is taking on a life of its own. The fact that the National Broadcasting Service, hey, you want to know what? Maybe this just means that I need to take over the National Broadcasting Service and have a national radio show where we can talk about all the mass formation psychosis and Operation Mockingbird, and maybe we can get something done.
Well, probably so. It would be innovative, to say the least, but and I think the owner, Matt, needs to contact the FCC and whoever controls all this emergency broadcast thing, start asking some questions.
You know what? I'll see Brother Matt here after the show, and I'll let him know. I'm sure he's listening. He was listening yesterday when all that craziness was going down, and I can't make this up. That's just the crazy thing. Like, I don't have the creativeness in me to sit there and figure out how to go ahead and do an emergency broadcast message interrupt once, let alone twice within 5 minutes. And the fact that we've gotten 3 phone calls on it within 10 minutes, that's absolutely insane to me.
Well, it's bizarre. It's like they're intentionally trying to knock certain stations off of the air when they're, just to make them mad or something, try to, interrupt their programming. But it's not happening to every radio station out there. And I would think it would happen across the board to all of them, but somehow or another it's not.
Well, this is what's going to end up happening because we are not going to be able to expose Mississippi for a just world accurately in the next 5 minutes or so. So what I think we're going to do is we're going to have a Founding Fathers Friday at the top of the hour. We've got to honor our founding fathers. And this guy is going to be one of the more seedy characters, if you will. He's got an interesting background, not only for the 1770s, but also as it applies to today's world in the United States. And so I think we'll do that. And then we'll just spend the rest of the next hour talking about Mississippi for a just world, because I'll tell you what, this is one of those NGO specials. I can see it already. I haven't been able to put 2 and 2 together and do all the validate the math yet, but it just the way it happened, it's crazy. And communist brainwashing services is right behind it, man. I know it.
Yeah. Well, we'll be listening, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, I appreciate it too. Thank you for calling. Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes you're sitting there doing a good work and just the craziness happens and you just got to go with it. It's like when all of a sudden the crazies start signing me up for insurance right here on the radio station. You can either embrace it and go with it, or you can get upset with it and get fired up with it and go down that road. I choose to be the Barnabas in all this, and this is usually the last segment of the second hour where I try to be an encourager and push everybody out a little bit out of their comfort zone to go do something a little bit different than what they're normally used to. But ladies and gentlemen, when we see stuff like this, we just got to acknowledge it. We've just got to acknowledge it. Let me go to Dark Horse Press here. I got them somewhere around here. Here we are. This is what's going on. You won't hear communist brainwashing services advertise this story. This is coming from Therese Appel from Dark Horse Press. Global Day of Unplugging encourages you to put down your phone and reconnect. Who are you going to reconnect with? The grass outside. Oh man, yeah. I'll tell you what, our farm is greening up really nice. From documenting literally everything on social media to checking your text during conversations, modern life is increasingly dominated by screens. The Global Day of Unplugging, observed from sundown March 6 to sundown March 7, invites people to step away from their services and devices for 24 hours and reconnect with the real world. In other words, Shabbat. You know what? There's going to be people out there. Oh, I can already see these two texters who give me blaming the Jews for everything. This is a Jewish conspiracy to get everybody to practice Shabbat. It's actually a great idea. Heck, don't do it for 24 hours. Could you put down your phone for 5 hours? Could you put down your phone for 2 hours? You know, the last study I saw, the average American looks at their phone 113 times in 1 hour. That's more than once a minute. That's almost twice a minute. This would be a great exercise to do. You know, fast from your phone. Go 40 days without your cell phone. See how that goes. I'll tell you what, just we live in really strange and mysterious times, and if you don't think that we're living in some strange and curious times, I'd like to hear why you don't think that's happening. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9. We will continue this in the next segment. We'll be right back. Yeah, you are back listening to the Andrew Gosser Show, being interrupted commonly now with the emergency broadcasting system. It's all right. We continue to preach the truth. We don't worry about little weather. We don't worry about a signal coming through. We just talk it and say it like it needs to be said. Does it come out just the way I want it to? Nope. But I know that it's going down the right path. We were talking about gossip. I talked about that proverb. The words of a gossip are like choice morsels. They go down in the innermost parts. Well, this was kind of happening with Christy Nome, and she's been fired, and she's going to be replaced by a sitting senator. What's his name? Mark Wayne Mullen. Apparently, pretty good firebrand conservative. That's great. But why was she fired? Some people have said that she had some type of an affair or something like that. She might have, uh, definitely compromised herself. She did do that. There are a lot of people out there in this world who have had an inappropriate relationship, and, if she's up at the top of the food chain there and she's doing something like that, well, then, she needs to go. But for me, that wouldn't be the big thing. The big thing is how she's conducted herself in public. Whether it be being interviewed by or interrogated by Congress for what happened in Minneapolis, whether it be her releasing statements before they're ready to be released. Let's be honest, Kristi Noem is easy to look at, and there's a lot of guys out there who sit there and say, look and make one judgment, and then they just go on their way. But this is why it's not only how you look on the outside; it's what you got going on in between your ears. And she made some very poor judgments, some very poor decisions. She spoke some really poor things, and it cost her. And we have to ask her if they can do this to, Kristi Noem, well, what's it say about Pam Bondi? She was trending earlier, and I I am not impressed with the DOJ. Everybody knows that, so let's just move on from that. But, yep, she's out, and, it just goes ahead and says these more unnamed sources were saying that she was fired before it actually came out. She's gonna continue to run the Department of Homeland Security until March 31st, and then Senator Mark Wayne Mullen will go in, which means now they're gonna take away a really good conservative vote in the Senate, and they're gonna have to replace that. And how long is that gonna be going on for? Man, Rick, you are fire, dude. Rick says, "So it's a fireable offense to have an affair with another adult, but messing with kids is okay." Thumbs up. Got it. Yeah, you can go ahead and do all that kind of stuff, rich, powerful influencer, but, you make poor decision with another consenting adult, yeah. I would say that maybe a little bit more Jesus in life would have prevented her having that inappropriate relationship, but that's not to say that it is a 100% foolproof thing. Christ is perfect, not us. We gotta remember that. We've gotta remember that. This has been a crazy first hour, ladies and gentlemen. I predicted this to go a very different way. I didn't expect to get interrupted a couple times, but, hey, that's just the way it is, and the phone calls have been awesome. They've been reassuring and edifying, and look, next hour, it's a Founding Fathers Friday. You're not gonna wanna miss it. This is the most in-depth Founding Fathers Friday that I had. It's got a special, uh additional moment in history that I really wanted to delve into. I'm going to figure out how we're going to get into that because I don't want to put off what this Mississippi for future justice, whatever the heck they're talking about. I don't want to let go of that. I don't want to be used and miss that out on that. So we'll talk about this Founding Father Friday. Really, really interesting guy. Gerrymandering. Could you imagine them gerrymandering back in the 1770s? Actually, wow. Uh, the enlightenment never stops here at the Andrew Gosser Show. Revelation right online. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show. We'll be back in about 7.5 minutes, everybody. Don't go anywhere. And we are back for the second hour of the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. We do have our 50,000 watt blowtorch moving and grooving. It's cooking. We're putting out a good signal. And if it gets interrupted, you always can go back to our stream. And it's on Rumble. It's on X. It's on YouTube. If you missed part of the show today or anytime, you can always go to one of those channels. And if you do go to one of those channels, would you do me a solid? Would you like the stream? Would you follow me on Rumble and X and YouTube? I'd appreciate it greatly. If you want to be part of the show today, number 601-879-0002. Text line is open. I see them coming in now, but this is Founding Fathers Friday. That number 601-879-5060. The mission here at the Andrew Gosser Show is standard. We are here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? You all are the saints. We got a double proverb today. A perverse person stirs up conflict, and a gossip separates close friends. We're not doing that. We're not gossiping. We're not sitting there causing strife. We're just trying to reveal the truth. We can't help it if the emergency broadcasting system wants to have its own rules and its own situation. We just go with the flow. Nice and easy. The words of a gossip are like choice morsels. They go down to the innermost parts. They go into your heart and grows out from there. And a gossip betrays confidence. So avoid anyone who talks too much, unless they're on the radio and it's their job. Then you can listen to them talk, but always validate what they're saying. Make sure about that. It is a Founding Fathers Friday, and this one, believe it or not, you absolutely know this dude. And while I was in the last segment, I was like, this is where that term comes from. I get it now. Today's founding father is, drum roll, I should probably get a sound effect for it, Elbridge Gerry, 1744 to 1814. His name is spelled Gerry, but it's pronounced Gary, I've been told when I was doing my research. And this is just a little bit about him. He is one of those unique people who has signed two documents, but not the Declaration of but he signed the Declaration of Independence, but not the Constitution. It's very interesting. Born July 17th, 1744 in Marblehead, Massachusetts. Now, this is important. Think about Massachusetts today and how all their congressional districts are drawn up. Then the province of Massachusetts. Elbridge was the third surviving son of Thomas Gerry, an English immigrant from Devonshire. He was a prosperous ship owner and a merchant trader. They did specifically a lot of codfish and seafood. That's where they made their money. His mother's name was Elizabeth Greenleaf, 1716 to 1771, from a Boston merchant family. So you can see here the business people, they tended to hang out together and have incredible amounts of kids, which we will soon find out. The Garys were among Marblehead's elite, politically active, and considered community pillars. And that's something that's really important. These families back then, the elite, they drove where the local city, the village, the county, the state was going. Here anymore, they don't do that. They just, the powerful elite, they just pay other people to do it and have puppets, proxies, if you will. Thomas served as the justice of the peace, selectman, and town meeting moderator. So his father, Elbridge Gerry's father, he was a politico. He was known at the city gates. Elbridge graduated from Harvard College in 1762, while Harvard was a real university and a body of higher education and learning, earning both a Bachelor of Arts and a Master of Arts. He joined the family shipping business soon after graduating, and by the 1770s, the family was quite wealthy from a wartime privateering and trade. They were hunting down English boats, taking the goods, reselling them, making bank. That's what they did. He opposed British policies early on in his adult life. And we're finding out a lot of our founding fathers, they were businessmen for the most part, or they were farmers. And they really didn't necessarily have a problem with the English until they started messing with their own stuff and try to get a cut of their action. And then they were like, we want to be free. Serving on the committees of correspondence, the Massachusetts Provincial Congress, and supplying the Continental Army. So he wasn't a soldier, but he was making sure that they got their beans and bullets, moccasins, and whatever else. He signed the Declaration of Independence in 1776 and the Articles of Confederation, but he never signed the Constitution. He attended the Constitution Convention in 1787, but refused to sign it, citing fears of excessive central power. My friend Paul would be like, yep. How many of us are concerned about the centralizing of power in Washington, D.C.? Or worse yet, the United Nations? He was worried about central power. He wanted a Bill of Rights and a potential for a monarchy. Not even going to try to say that word. Post-ratification, he supported the Constitution, helped draft the Bill of Rights, especially strong religious freedom clauses, and served from the U.S. House from 1789 to 1793 as an anti-administration figure. Man, this guy sounds so much like my friend Paul, man. He was a great guy and everything, but everything was wrong. And he just wanted to make sure that whatever he could tear down and pull down in a good way. If there was something good going on, he supported it. But he always was able to find out and sniff out the BS and get rid of it. And he served in the first U.S. House from 1789 to 1793 as an anti-administration figure. He was involved in the XYZ affair. And I literally have a whole 10-minute segment on the XYZ affair, but we are going to hold off on that because we can't let go what happened in the last hour. He was considered a Democratic Republican and became vice president under James Madison, dying in office on November 23rd, 1814 in Washington, D.C., the only Declaration signer who is buried in Washington, D.C. His name endures via gerrymandering. In 1812, he signed a redistricting bill creating an oddly shaped district favoring his party. The Essex County District resembled a salamander, inspiring the word gerrymander. But it would actually be called Garymander because that's how all the pronunciations say that. So this guy, it just goes to show you that not all of our founding fathers were always acting on the up and up. And of course, it wouldn't be a Founding Fathers Friday without me going into the spiritual beliefs of this guy to see where if his spiritual beliefs actually influenced him at all. And this gets to the point that I often tell many new people who are thinking about coming to Christ or who are very turned off with Christ. I always say, don't let a flawed human being, an evil being, take away your Jesus. Because there are things about Andrew Gosser that I'm not proud of. And you'd be sitting there going, man, I don't know if I like you anymore. I'm a flawed creature, but I'm all right now. Most people are. The Gary family was devoutly pious, regularly attending the First Congregational Church of Marblehead, a Calvinist-influenced Puritan descendant denomination to central New England, stressing scripture, moral discipline, and local church autonomy. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, just like the communist brainwashing service, they are trying to brainwash out of us how important their faith was in their upbringing. Even the ones that screwed up. Even the ones who created gerrymandering. And if you haven't looked at Massachusetts maps lately for their congressional districts, you should. Gerrymandering's going strong. Go look at Illinois, New York, California. Man, our founding father was the one who created gerrymandering. Who would have thought? They avoided being opulent despite the wealth that they had, reflecting disciplined Protestant values. Elbridge remained a committed Protestant Christian throughout his life. Public proclamations as governor called for citizens to prostrate before the throne of the heavenly grace, giving thanks to the gospel illumination, confessing sins patiently. And you will never hear about this in your U.S. history book if it's in a public school. So many of this guy's speeches And when I was reading some of them, they were like, man, these were really good. I didn't even hear about, because there are some founding fathers who wrote some spiritual stuff that I thought were just incredible. He was one of those people who could read both the Greek and the Hebrew and English. Not many of us can do that anymore. And he championed religious liberty. He wanted to make sure that we didn't have a Church of England situation here in the United States, which is why he wanted to put in the freedom of religion, not the separation of church and state, like so many left-wing lunatics want to do today. That's not what he was. Although they'll try to say that his works say that. It's just like how they twisted Thomas Jefferson's separation of church and state line out of a paper that had absolutely nothing to do with the context of what he was writing about. It's absolutely terrible. While some secondary sources label him an Episcopalian, possibly from family connections, primary evidence ties him to a firm Congregationalism point of view. His views are aligned with many of the founders. Christianity as a personal societal good, provincial in the nation's founding, but no government coercion in belief. Can't do that. Got to hurry up, because this is, and ladies, this is going to be crazy. Gary married late at age 42 to Ann Thompson, who was half his age. He was 42. She was 20 years younger than him at 22 years old. Educated and described as and accomplished as beautiful. They settled in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and they had, ready for this, not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, not six, not seven, not eight, not nine, but 10 children, ladies and gentlemen, 9 of which survived to adulthood, 3 sons and 6 daughters. Sources vary slightly. Some say that there might have been actually 11 kids, but they had at least 10 that we know of and 9 that made it to adulthood, which is incredibly good luck considering the medicine and the mortality rate of children back in those times. And, they were just a very fruitful family. And then I've got all the names here, but I don't feel the need to go through all that. Anne obviously outlived her husband Elbridge by 35 years and supported her children, including living with son James and daughters. The family reflected era norms, large households, strategic elite marriages, and continued prominence in politics, military, and in society. Gary's balanced intense public service with family and faith, frequent absences for duties, where he went to France in the XYZ thing, which we'll have to talk about at some point, but not today. But strong bonds via correspondence. His story mixes revolutionary patriotism, principled politics, and deep faith in domestic and national prominent life. And ladies and gentlemen, that is Eldridge Gary, founding father. And I'll tell you what, I enjoyed this study more than any of them that I've done so far. Not to say that I don't enjoy the guy who blew up his own house. I'll always appreciate that, taking one for the team. But the things that this guy did, and with the problems we have with gerrymandering today in our congressional districts, they're having the same problems back then. His party was the Democratic Republicans. Well, I would say that the Democrats and the Republicans have that problem today. It just depends on what state you're in, right? When we get back, we're going to talk about what the Mississippi and stuff that's going on, along with the communist brainwashing service. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on a Founding Fathers Friday. We will be right back. Oh, yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show. I am really fired up because we were so rudely interrupted in the first hour, not once, but twice. We were talking about this article or this news report from the Communist Brainwashing Service 12 here in Mississippi, talking about Mississippi for a Just World, often abbreviated as MSJW. So this is what I could find on it, and again, this is going to be a TTP Tuesday type of event where we're going to go through this online and try to break this out even further. It's a human rights advocacy organization based in Jackson, Mississippi. It operates as get ready for this, a 501c3 nonprofit, and focuses on building solidarity between the struggles in the Deep South, particularly Mississippi's long history of civil rights and Black liberation movements, and global human rights issues in the global South and beyond. What the hell is the global South? Listen to this. This sounds just like Joe Biden just slapped this together in 2024 on his way out the door. Founded in 2024, initially emerging from a protest and organization efforts to support Palestinians during their heightened activism. So here you go. You know how we're seeing all these different Arabic signs coming up and around? Like when I went to get some blood work done, normally it's English and Spanish. It was English and Arabic. I was like, what the heck's going on with that? Its mission is to champion human rights, dignity, and well-deserving for oppressed people everywhere. There it is, the Oppression Olympics. Who's oppressed? I'll tell you what, there's nobody here in America who's oppressed. You want to go see oppressed? Go look at the women in Afghanistan or the women in the former Islamic Republic of Iran. You could even go, dare I say, look in Yemen or Turkey, which is going to make this even bigger when we play this news clip. Yep. Let's see here. Especially those of Black communities facing sympathetic inequality or systemic inequality, voting rights issues, etc. There's not one voting rights issue that we have in Hinds County. Not one. You know what? Not one Democrat has called me up to talk about it. Not one Democrat has come up to complain to me about it, because you know why? It doesn't exist. But it makes good ratings for the Communist Brainwashing Service, especially to young skulls of mush who don't know how to think, who don't know how to critically and deductively reason, to international causes, including the Palestinian liberation, the Sudan, the Congo, Haiti, and indigenous struggles. But screw the Nigerian Christians and screw the Iranian women. They don't count because they don't fit in our group. They provide certain services, transformative political education, collective power building, advocacy and policy efforts, coalition work, and direct action. My goodness, this just goes on and on. The core beliefs, justice and dignity, are inherent rights. So you're okay with all those mullahs raping all those little girls in Iran, making them wear burqas, not just hijabs, but burqas, and doing that. My goodness, these guys are the biggest hypocrites. Let's go and listen to what Channel 12 had to say. And again, this is a big giant broadcast risk for me because this is on YouTube. I don't know if they throw in a commercial, I'll have to try to duck out of it real quick. But here we go in 3, 2, 1.
At home, some Mississippians are publicly objecting to the war in Iran. The group.
So they're sitting there saying this is a big protest. There were less than 20 people there. But here's this old white fogey dude sitting there with justice and then a bunch of Arabic all over his shirt. Looks like Arabic and Hebrew, if I'm not mistaken. But they're saying these perfectly printed out signs, no war on Iran, with the logo. Who paid for that?
Mississippi for a Just World expressed its disapproval for the ongoing conflict. The protests took place at the corner of Woodrow Wilson and State Street.
Yep, and no one's showing their face. No one's sitting there talking about it. Stop the genocide. Yeah, you mean like anywhere between 20 and 50,000 Iranians who were slaughtered by the IRGC? Don't talk about them. Don't talk about the hundreds of thousands of Christians that got wiped out in Nigeria. No, that's not what we want. We're talking about Palestine. We're talking about the Oppression Olympics right here in Mississippi that don't exist. See what this communist brainwashing service does? They just sit there to get you angry and fired up over stuff that doesn't exist, and then they sit there and watch. It's like watching the car wreck after they caused it. Oh, did I do that?
And caught the attention of drivers with many honking and screaming in support of their efforts.
Now, I want to know how the communist brainwashing service knows that they were honking in cheering in support, just like that NASCAR driver. Let's go, Brandon. Or were they saying F Joe Biden? How was it reported again? You see the evilness of it? It's truly evil. And that's why I say that these people need to be tarred and feathered. If there was a protest, I wouldn't protest Mississippi for world justice or whatever the heck they are. It's inconsequential. They have a X feed, and they now have 161, or they're now following 161 people, and they have 87 followers. I think they might have gained a follower since we started talking about them. Good for them. Hopefully it's an investigative reporter who's going to infiltrate their network and point out all the craziness that they do. But let's continue with this.
As vehicles passed by, protesters chanted, informing travelers what's potentially at stake if the United States remains involved.
And what's it potentially at stake? Notice how they always sit there and try to make it sinister. It's like this latest global warming crap that they're saying now. It's going to raise by 1.5 feet by 2030. Please. They sit there and they just do enough. And they've built up so much institutional trust through Operation Mockingbird that people just eat this stuff up. And this is local. This is something that we have real control on. This moron who gets at the top of the hour news and can't even say the Secretary of War, there's really not too much you can do about that. But whoever this lady is, we should be able to go and say, what are you doing?
An Iranian American we spoke with says the price of war is too much.
Yep, the price of war is too much. And this is an Iranian American. Now, we can't prove this. We have to take communist brainwashing services at their word that they're doing this. But they found an Iranian American.
A part of it is numbness, too. And that's a part of the strategy. Authoritarian governments, the one that we're living in right now.
We are not living in an authoritarian government. If we were in an authoritarian government, you would be sitting at home, inside your apartment, sheltered in place, because the IRGC would be marauding through the streets, whacking anybody who disagreed with them.
The ones that were bombing abroad.
So you're saying that the authoritarian government that we're bombing abroad? How about you go back to Iran and go put on a burqa? I see you don't even have a hijab on. You don't even have a hijab on. And you're out here expressing your First Amendment right that patriots died and gave their blood for, so that you could have the opportunity to do that. And now you're complaining about it. Hypocrite.
The strategy is to exhaust people.
Now, to be fair to her, when she's right, she's right. And people are exhausted. War fatigue. America, we cannot be the world police. We agree with that. But the way that they're fatiguing us is not physically fatiguing us. No, we're good to go there. We're fatigued with all the lies and BS coming out of the mainstream media that we can't cut off. Whether it be even if you go to X and go to Rumble or that, Google still has control over the ads you see. They still go ahead and moderate your content if they don't like something. Or the emergency broadcast system comes on and does 2 alerts within 5 minutes and you don't even know it.
So that it's not just, what's happening right now is so traumatic. It would take a person's entire lifetime to recover from the.
Oh, you mean like the soldiers and sailors and Marines and airmen who go over there and liberate people, and the things that they see, they have to get rid of it. And you're sitting here complaining on the mean streets of Jackson about the oppression that you have to go through? How about we airdrop you into Nigeria and see how well you do? Or the Congo? Or better yet, Somalia? That's real oppression. Well, you've got a news camera. You've got 3 news reporters sitting there filming you, giving you 15 minutes of fame. And you're talking about how bad you've got it. Give me a break.
the trauma of watching your people and your heritage be destroyed by needless violence. And instead of
So you didn't get to see the IRGC mowing down thousands and thousands of your people, Iranians you claim to be from Iran. You don't get to see that, so it doesn't bother you. But you see something put out by the mainstream media, and all of a sudden now you're fired up, ready to go. You know, she might be part of this new secret military organization that I've heard about. I can't talk about it because it actually troubles me. I really just want to blow it wide open, but I have too much integrity to do that.
having a lifetime to recover from that, we get 2 days and then there's another tragedy.
That's right. And Rick it's talked about it. Richard has talked about it. I've talked about it. Clay's talked about it. This stuff comes at you so fast you don't even know. But to sit here and have you thinking that your little cause is more important than freeing a people, I don't know about that. Here's a caller. Let's see what. Hey, go ahead. You're on the air.
Oh, I got one for you about control. I've kept this under hat a long time. You may not agree with me at first, but what I'm going to tell you is irrefutable, and I'm going to make it a long story short.
Okay, because we got about 40 seconds.
Oh, I don't know if I'm going to break into it. That's way another. All right, I'm going to try to make it fast. To show you how we've been duped as Christians for several hundred years, being controlled by factions of the Jewish people, not all, to let you know this, that in my opinion, and through my theology thinking and studying, we've all been taught and brainwashed to display the Ten Commandments as was given unto Moses to our public eye, which includes the 10th commandment, the Sabbath day, which does not exist anymore for Christians. When Jesus stood before them and said, I am that I am, everything Jewish should have died at that moment, plus every Sabbath. But they rejected him and kept doing those things. Now, in the New Testament, Christ said, and the apostles said there should be two commands: love thy neighbor as thyself and God with all your heart. They did not repeat the commands of Moses because of the Sabbath day. Now, Jewish and the APAC and everybody else wants Texas, everybody in the whole country, to put those 10 commandments on the wall. The 10 commandments of two are still the same, except the Sabbath day does not exist for a Christian. And they got everybody fooled that Sunday as a Sabbath. The old Jewish Sabbath is Saturday.
Yep.
There's no Sabbath for a Christian.
Hey, brother, I'm not trying to argue with you, but I got to go up against this break. But do me a favor. Will you call back next week?
Yes, I'm going to break it down very eloquently for you, brother.
Because I know where you're going with this, but we don't have the time to do it. And I appreciate the phone call. It even
controls Sunday sales of liquor. It controls everything.
Yeah.
It controls.
I'll talk.
I'll let you out, bro.
Yep. Thank you. And I want to go down that road that he was going, but it's not where we're going right now. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. Ooh, yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. It's a heater today. It's a heater today. Now, when I first heard about this story and this Mississippi for a Just World nonsense, uh, I didn't actually hear it from Channel 12 News. I didn't hear it from X or Instagram. I actually heard it from that communist brainwashing syndicate, Mississippi Today. And let me tell you this, when they're equaling up with what CBS is saying, I'm telling you that we there is coordination, there's collusion, and they're continuing to go ahead and try to push this stuff, not necessarily on us who are older, let's say above our 30s and older, but on these youngins who didn't get the chance to think about creative or not creative, but critical thinking skills. In one of these pictures on Mississippi Today, there's a guy wearing a somebody for Congress, turnage for Congress. So I don't know if they're sitting there or what, but they've got the executive director, Miss Kanda Abdul Tawib, and I'm not Tawab, maybe it's Tawab, not Weeb. I'm sorry. Candace Abdullah Tawab, co-founder and executive director of the Mississippi for a Just World left, and a congressional candidate, even Turnage. So there you go. Just a little bit more digging. And so CBS, or Communist Brainwashing Services, said that this was a big rally. So I asked Grok how big of a protest this was. The protest you are referring to occurred on March 5th, 2026 in Jackson, Mississippi, organized by Mississippi for a Just World. Grok estimates around 20 people gathered at the intersection of North State Street and East Woodrow, Wilson. Yeah, that's right by the VA. I got to go there today. Opposed to the U.S. and Israeli military strikes on Iran. And this is what I want to say about these strikes that are going on in Iran. Those of you who are ticked off about this because you want to fix stuff here at home, I'm right here with you. We need to focus on fixing ourselves first. And we can talk about whether the strikes to liberate Iran are good or bad. I tend to think they're good. I can go through the geopolitical reasons, the military reasons, the strategic reasons, but I've got to control what I can control, and I don't have control over that. But do you know what I do have control over? Our attorney general and auditor prosecuting the fraud that's happening inside Mississippi. We can focus on doing stuff like that. We can come together on that, and we can get the roads that we need. We can go ahead and figure out how we can get hospitals to the Delta. We can go ahead and talk about those things because we do need to focus on ourselves here at home. The homelessness epidemic, specifically with our vets, but other homelessness too. The group's messaging explicitly framed as "Stop the War on Humanity." I think if we're going to stop the war on humanity, we first have to unplug from the brainwashing that's happening through our devices, which is why that Dark Horse article on unplugging for 24 hours seems like a really good idea. I almost want to put that challenge out to the audience tonight and just see if you can go 24 hours without any connective services. Now, you need electricity, you need water in farming and stuff like that, but could you like shut off Facebook and X and all that? Because like I have my farming Excel sheets and stuff like that I've got to do. But could you get through 24 hours without a phone? When I started researching this from Mississippi Today, this is where I found the YouTube video from WJTV News. People gather in Jackson to protest the war in Iran. What WJTV didn't do was talk about the overwhelming protests and rallies of support that broke out all around the world for freeing the Iranian people. And I'm very serious when I say this. Iran could change its name. It could go back to Persia because they're the Persians. And just like that last caller said, who wanted to go over the 12 commandments and Shabbat, and there are hermeneutical agreements that I have with him and hermeneutical disagreements I have with him. But at the same time, that needs to happen. And for all you people who are like, well, hermeneutical, I don't even know what that is. You'll figure it out. We'll get you there. You're a saint. My goal is to create saints with this program and bring up issues and subjects to show you why certain things are happening the way they are. Many of you do not like the 10 commandments. Some of you like the 10 commandments. I argue if the world just followed the 10 commandments, regardless of their spirituality and belief, it would be a much better place. Maybe Christy Nome should take that covenant 10 commandment pretty seriously. Maybe Andrew Gosser should too. Maybe I shouldn't covet my neighbor's property. Not that I do, but I'm just using that as an example. There are all sorts of good things that come from spirituality that are inherent to our American fabric that we are just absolutely kicking to the curb, and then we're getting things like this, this Mississippi for a just world. There will never be a just world as long as there are humans in it, because we're flawed. I could think about one example yesterday, and I'm not ashamed to admit this. I've got a handicap parking sticker. If you know, you know. And I'm getting ready to pull into this handicap parking spot, and this lady in a red Camry at the Clinton Kroger cuts me off and pulls right in. And I walk up, and I just want to see if she's got the sticker. Nope, no handicap sticker, no nothing. She gets out, strutting her stuff, and I just gave her a look, and she gave me a look like, "Get the heck out of here! I'm parking here." And I just that's the humanity that is not just. I can shuffle in and get around and do what I need to do. It helps a lot when I can park close. But I can survive. But what about somebody who has a wheelchair that or something like that? There's a reason that we have those handicap parking spots there. And this lady's morality, this woman's, sense of direction, compass of good is 180 degrees out of phase. She had no problem getting in there with her nails, talking on her cell phone, perpetrating like she was somebody important. You just took away a handicap spot from somebody who needed it. So when I think of a just world, I know that we're not going to get there, but that doesn't mean that you can't form an organization, put it on X, and all of a sudden get local media coverage from the local communist broadcasting brainwashing services. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. Yeah, welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. This has to be one of the most interesting shows that I've ever had. Being interrupted by the emergency broadcasting system, not once but twice, without any actual alert, test message, or anything, just firing off. Finding out that not only did it happen twice on my show, but apparently on other radio stations, it didn't go off. And it just goes to show you that there are things out there that are beyond your control, and you have two choices, as I used to tell my kids. You've got two choices. You can either be bothered by it and let that affect you, or you can have a positive mental attitude. What is that? The new day? Power of positivity. I'm a more positive type of person. And I'm really looking positively about the Mississippi for a Just World, because now I'm going to grift off of this for 2 hours on Tuesday. Techniques, Tactics, and Procedures Tuesday. We are going to go ahead and do a deep dive onto this on air live. They're a 501c3, so we're going to be able to pull up those documents. We'll be able to find out who all is on their board. We'll go ahead and pull up their X account, their Insta account. What else do they got here? They've got all sorts of stuff going on. Twitter account. They've got an email, MississippiForAJustWorld.org. I mean, they also have an Eventbrite. We can actually get invited to their operations. We could infiltrate them and just have a great time figuring out how the leftist mind works for this. It's really a great thing. What are you using AI for? What are you doing and what are you consuming? Are you consuming things that are positive or are negative? And again, I hope that the Andrew Gosser Show is something that is positive for you. And it gives you hope that, we can go out there and we can expose the stuff and we can talk about different things. But it's that time, ladies and gentlemen. It's Friday. I will not be buying the Sweet Bee and Sweet Toot flowers on Friday. They're traveling over Ireland and having the time of their life. I think they're actually going to get to go to a Celtic game, which I always wanted to go to. Not sure I'm going to get that one. But I did get to go to an Arsenal game. But I just want to say how important it is to love on your spouse and to make sure that you're acknowledging them with all the great things that happen in your life. When you have something joyful, you get double the joy. When you have something sorrowful, it's half the sorrow. And Sweet Bee and Sweet Toots, I love you so much. I'm really jealous that I can't go to the Guinness factory with you all, the Guinness brewery. That would have been fun. Oh, Andy, you're a Christian. You can't drink. Well, I can't get stupid drunk and waste away my fortune, but I could enjoy a good Guinness. You could too, if you so choose. Ladies and gentlemen, honor your wives, honor your husbands, teach your kids about Jesus. Be that example, not just for your kids and your spouse, but for your neighbors, your family, your friends. And we'll be back here again in about 46 hours to do it all over again. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, take care, be blessed. We'll see you on the other side.